Marco Andretti and Eddie Cheever were thought there was contact. And
Marco Andretti is upset as he balls the fist up. And
there's nothing to talk about. I mean, the guy is unbelievable.
This is not the first time that Marco and Eddie have had a little run-in.
If he or his father think that I'm going out of my way to create a problem for Marco, they're very mistaken.
Guy's a waste. Complete idiot.
That was 1 week ago when tempers were flaring and accusations were flying. I can tell you it's hot tonight here in Texas with both emotions and temperatures at an all-time high. Expect a showdown of wheel-to-wheel action under the lights tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Live from Texas Motor Speedway, it's the Texas Indy 500K, the first of 3 night races this season. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee alongside Larry Rice. And, Larry, there is a reason for racing at night in Texas.
That's because it's so hot. It was 38 degrees here today. Yesterday, the track temperature was 62 degrees. The asphalt was 62 degrees. It's going to cool down some, but not a whole lot.
Well, so far, this racing season has turned out to be a shootout between 2 teams, Team Penske and Team Target Ganassi. Look at this, with 3 wins for Penske, 2 for Ganassi. The laps led the top 5s, and, of course, the point standings, 1st and 3rd, and 2nd and 4th. So, once again, each race has been won by one of the drivers from these 2 teams. The season began with almost a photo finish, with Weldon winning over Castro-Neves at Homestead. Then at St. Petersburg, it was Elio taking the checkered flag and climbing the fence to salute the fans. Then on to Motegi, and again, it was Elio saluting the Japanese fans. And the final straightaway, the victory at Indianapolis went to Sam Hornish over Marco Andretti. And just a week ago, it was Scott Dixon for Ganassi Racing winning at the Glen. Earlier we talked to Dixon.
Shootout of the season, and the scorecard shows Team Penske with 3 wins and Target Ganassi with 2. But this guy here at Watkins Glen last week had the best car and the best call. Scott Dixon, now you've had a week to reflect on it. How much of a gamble was it staying on the racetrack those final 2 laps, slick tires and a damp track?
It was pretty rough, you know. As I said before, it's just so much confusion, I think, with the radios not working. But in the end, I think whoever pulled over, like, say, the guy in the lead was, you know, I think the field was going to follow. So we were very lucky that we could make that call, and it worked out for the best of us. The last couple of laps were pretty bad, though.
Typically here, the starts, to use a Texas term, it's almost like a 200-mile-per-hour stampede. How do you keep them getting trampled early on with everybody rushing toward the front?
It's hard, you know. A lot of the guys definitely go, balls out of the start. And it's hard to sort of, try and jump into it too quick because you've got such a long race, and it's always easy to make your way back towards the front with the banking here at Texas. So I try to take it a little cautious to start with, but, tonight we need to stay at the front, stay out of trouble, and hopefully bring another win for Target.
And good luck tonight.
Thank you very much.
Jack?
Thanks, Jerry, but the guy that is representing Team Penske will start from the pin tonight. No unfamiliar place for him there. Sam Hornish Jr. Sam, this rivalry between Team Ganassi and Team Penske, how real is it?
We're out there to beat everybody. We're not just focused on one team. We're trying to win the championship. We already won the 500, and Elio and I have got a lot of work to do ahead of us this season. But we're out there to beat everybody. We're not happy if they finish last and we finish next to last. We want to win these races.
Fellas, the money is good, the stardom is great, but tonight it's all about pride.
Well, he talks about the championship right now. So far this season, the points break down like this. Of course, Castro-Neves with 2 victories has the lead by 12 over Scott Dixon. Hornish is 3rd, Weldon is 4th. And there is Tony Kanaan representing Andretti Green Racing in 5th position.
Yeah, their only guy in the top 5. And there is Elio Castro-Neves, ready and raring to go as usual.
Well, of course, it looked like it was going to be his season. He was the guy to beat. He finished 2nd to Weldon in the opener and then won back-to-back. We thought, uh-oh, here we go again. So Castro-Neves as the salute to the country and the flyover by the F-16s continue here at Texas Motor Speedway. We're ready for a 500K. You know what it's like down here, side by side and nose to tail for every lap they contest. There is just so much to see here in picturesque Fort Worth. This is the parade of the Longhorn Steers.
Yeah, the stockyards is a place where they brought all the cattle to ship them off east.
Well, of course, Marco very much in the spotlight this week because of what happened just a week ago when he and the veteran Eddie Cheever got together at Watkins Glen, and fingers were being pointed and accusations were being tossed.
Marco Andretti and Eddie Cheever were signed. There was contact and
as he balls the fist up, and
There's nothing to talk about. I mean, the guy is unbelievable.
this is not the first time that Marco and Eddie have had a little run-in.
If he or his father think that I'm going out of my way to create a problem for Marco, they're very mistaken.
Guy's a waste. Complete idiot.
Well, of course, they had a chance to collect their thoughts this week, and we had a chance to visit with both the drivers involved yesterday after practice.
What I've narrowed it down to is it's two things, and they're both scary. He either didn't see me or it was on purpose. Like I said, I mean, they're both pretty scary things. What happens if he doesn't see me in Texas, you know? I think it's a little worse.
But to insinuate that I would actually have a crash for somebody intentionally is ludicrous. So the only part of this whole discussion that I really think needs to be addressed is the fact that somebody would keep on repeating that I would intentionally have an accident. That is silly.
And tonight he will start in the 17th position in the car that he owns, in number 51, starting 17th. Now, in practice yesterday, we alluded to a problem between Cheever and Helio Castroneves. This was yesterday in the final practice session.
Yeah, they were out there running side by side, drafting as you do. Cheever came to one of those little short straightaway. He came down, and Castroneves thought he got too close. He thought it was an unnecessary move, and he showed him with no uncertain terms as they came into the pits. Shook his fist, veered over toward him and said, "Hey, boy, don't be doing that in practice."
Well, then he climbed out of the car and walks up to an IndyCar Series official and says, "You know, I don't like what that guy's doing out there." So the spotlight remains on Eddie Cheever. Well, we talk about the drivers in the field that have won this race before. Thomas Scheckter won from the pole position last year. Castroneves has won. Kanaan 2 years ago. Sharp, a two-time winner. And, of course, Hornish has won here 2 times on his way to his 2 championships. And there's a look at Thomas Scheckter, who won from the pole position last year, and he starts in the 5th position.
Yeah, and he has a new sponsor. That's the Rock Republic sponsorship. It's now gray and orange instead of gray and black that we've seen all year.
Of course, they picked up partial sponsorship during the month of May, and now it's been carried over for the rest of the season. So they're happy to carry their color schemes, and it also gives them a new wardrobe to wear as well. Tony Kanaan will start outside row 3. He was the winner here 2 years ago, now 5th in the point standings. The first guy in the top 5 that does not drive for Roger Penske or Chip Ganassi. And you anticipated this kind of a season once we realized they were all using the Honda engines.
Yeah, but Team Andretti really wants a victory. Tony Kanaan is the guy that can give it to him, and he's going to be he's got that on his mind tonight, I can guarantee you.
Well, Vito Mir would like to win a race here, and he certainly is driving for a good team. John Barnes and Panther Racing has won 5 times here. Roger Penske twice, and Ganassi, Andretti, Green, A.J. Foyt with 1 each. But, of course, we talk about Vito Mira, who starts in the 13th position. This is his 51st race. He has yet to win in 51 starts. And, of course, that team is also looking for somebody's name to put on that side panel.
Yeah, it's very bare right there. They do need a sponsorship very badly. Mira almost won the Indianapolis 500 1 year ago, and just came within an eyelash. So he's capable. He just hasn't been in the right place at the right time. That little something that Sam Hornish has, he hasn't quite figured out yet.
Of course, this is a very unique racetrack. We talked before about that very short straightaway that makes for a double apex corner.
Yeah, 2.4 kilometers. And the big thing there is down near the bottom, 24-degree banking. That 24-degree banking really makes it possible for these guys to run side by side, lap after lap, and make those really, truly great finishes that we've come to see here. It's very hard on the drivers. The G-forces are great, and the mental part of this track is very, very difficult.
Well, the G-force between 4 and 5 Gs, 4 to 5 times the normal weight of the driver in the cockpit on this 24-degree banking. The straightaways are banked 5 degrees. So you see the drivers are in the cars. They're waiting for the command to fire the engines. Live coverage from Texas Motor Speedway. Of course, this is the middle race of a 3 straight weekend swing. Indianapolis Motor Speedway a couple of weeks ago. Last week, of course, it was the road course at Watkins Glen. This week at Texas, there is Dario Franchitti, the only driver not with Penske or Ganassi to steal a pole position. He had the pole position at St. Petersburg. And today he will start outside row 4 in the 8th starting position once again for Andretti Green.
And he has a very good chance to win at this racetrack. The top 10 or 15 guys, top 15 guys are all within 0.3 of a second of each other. So it's very, very close competition. They can stay in the draft. They can all, the top 12 guys all have a chance to win this thing.
We'll be joining the public address system momentarily for the command to fire the engines. Apparently we're about 15 to 20 seconds away from that, and this is the one time the drivers really have a chance to collect their thoughts. They're away from everybody. The helmet is on. They can talk on the car radio to the crew, but for the most part they're finally alone with their thoughts. Now let's go down to trackside and join the public address system.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports, and here to give that command, the co-owner of Vision Racing and star of the hit ABC TV drama Grey's Anatomy, Patrick Dempsey.
Drivers, start your engines! Yeah!
Co-owners of the race team, along with Tony George of Vision Racing. There's a look at Danica. She'll start back in the 15th position with a brand new chassis for her. She and Buddy Rice, her team, of driving Dallara chassis for the first time.
Yeah, everybody in the field now has a Dallara chassis. For Rahal Letterman, it's the first time they've had them, and they have a little trouble. It's going to take them a little while to get things worked out with those things, but I think once they get used to them and know what it needs, they're going to be much better
They have
off.
more downforce. They complain that they had too much downforce because they're driving flat out here in Texas, but yet they didn't have a good top speed.
Well, of course, they've been complaining all year long about not having enough
downforce.
So it's been, it's been too slick. It's been sliding around now. Then they've got too much because the chassis are different, and it does create more downforce.
And keep in mind, in the first time they're driving all the contenders with the same chassis and the same engine package.
Yeah, so I think all in all, Rahal Letterman now should have a much better opportunity to win the race than they have had before. Indianapolis, they thought about switching before Indianapolis. They didn't do it. I think at this point.
Cars begin to pull away as we take a look now at the starting lineup. Once again, on the pole, the third pole position this season, 9th of his career, Sam Hornish, a former 2-time winner of this event. Dan Weldon, of course, has also won once this season. He's 4th in the point standings. In the second row on the inside, Elio Castroneves, a 2-time winner this season. He's also won here. He leads the point standings and has led in every race so far this season. Scott Dixon, of course, the winner last week at Watkins Glen, starts outside row 2. In the third row on the inside, Thomas Scheckter won this race from the pole position last year. There's Tony Kanaan. Kanaan won here 2 years ago. He's now 5th in the point standings. A 2-time winner will start inside the 4th row. That's Scott Sharp. He's won here twice. His 121st start in the IndyCar Series. There's Dario Franchitti, who has a pole position at St. Petersburg this season. Dario right now will start outside the 4th row. In the 5th row on the inside, there's the leading rookie candidate for Rookie of the Year. He was Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis. That's Marco Andretti. He starts inside row 5. Kosuke Matsura from Japan starts outside the 5th row. In the 6th, so there will be a change. Brian Herta qualified for that inside starting position, but he changed power plants. The Honda was changed after qualifying. He goes to the back of the pack. Ed Carpenter will start outside row 6. In the 7th row on the inside, there's Vito Mira, his 51st start. On 5 occasions, he's finished second, still looking for his first win. And there, of course, is Buddy Rice. Buddy has switched to the Dallara, so for the first time this season, the Dallara Honda package for he and his teammate, Danica Patrick, who will start inside row 8, alongside the other rookie in the race, Jeff Simmons. In the 9th row on the inside, there's the guy that's gotten a lot of publicity since last week's race, Eddie Cheever, 1998 Indianapolis 500 champion, alongside the 1996 Indy 500 champion, Buddy Lazier, and Felipe Giafoni in A.J. Foyt's number 14 did not get a time in qualifying.
Yeah, so he will have to start dead last. But you notice one thing on this while we're watching those cars go around. The yellow lights right up at the base of the wall. It's an innovation they use here that they don't use anywhere else. It really helps the drivers. Distance 483 kilometers. Pit windows 48 to 52 laps. So it's going to be at least a 3 pit stop race. So it's going to be a very, very interesting and fun race.
And the weather, Larry, is hot.
It is hot. It's really hot. 33 degrees right now. It's been as hot as 38 this weekend. The wind, 31 kilometers, not going to be a big factor. But the big thing is it's going to cool up. As the sun goes away and it gets cooler all night long, the chassis are going to change. They're going to have to adjust them.
Thomas Schechter's car down the back stretch, bank 5 degrees. You look at the 24-degree banking. They should have the green this next time by. Well, back in 98, there were 10 different leaders in this. That's the most in one race. Only 3 leaders back in 2003. So we'll see what unfolds here this evening. The first of 3 night races will be racing tonight in 2 weeks. Big jump for Hornish as the green flag flies.
Yeah, he got on the throttle pretty early. Everybody else behind him stayed 2 by 2, but he got a nice jump. He and his teammate jumped off along with Weldon.
Well, you heard Dixon say he was going to take it easy on the start.
Well, look at this. Weldon's not going to take it easy. He's coming to the inside of Sam Hornish. Hornish gives him plenty of room down there.
Well, of course, this track is so wide that you can race too wide. There are 2 grooves and sometimes 3 grooves. Hornish will lead that first circuit.
And Hornish, over the years, has preferred that outside groove to the inside groove. He'd rather be out there. When you're on the inside groove, you have to pinch the car, just like Dixon did right there. He stayed right on the very bottom. Sometimes that cuts your RPMs enough that it helps the guy on the outside. This time it didn't, and Hornish had to fall in behind him.
Well, Weldon will lead lap number 2.
You can see that big bump down there in turn number 3 when those are titanium skid pads that hit that big bump. Goes all the sparks, but there's always been a bump down there. It's not much better this year.
Well, they start with 30 gallons of fuel. It is a 10% mixture of ethanol this year, so about 210 pounds of fuel right behind the cockpit when they start the race. So that will change the handling characteristics as they burn off that fuel and burn off the weight.
Once again, the first 4 or 5 cars have gone single file. That's something we haven't seen here in the past very often. Usually it is a double file run for about the first 8 or 10 laps, but right away they've fallen off into single file this year.
So it's Weldon, Hornish, Castroneves, Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan now is 5th, Schechter is 6th, 7th is Scott Sharp, 8th is Franchitti, 9th is Matsuura, and Andretti now is in 10th. Now watch the sparks.
Yeah,
that could be a bit disconcerting, although you know that that's going to happen as a driver. Still, when it does happen, it gets your attention.
Oh, yeah. Those titanium skid plates are put on there for a reason, and they do throw a lot of sparks, but they're there to stop any real major damage if you hit a big bump like that.
So we were at Indianapolis just 2 weeks ago on the big oval, and we go road racing last week on the fast road course at Watkins Glen in very cold and wet conditions, and we come here to a smaller kind of a tri-oval in very hot conditions.
Yeah, the weather has certainly been different at each racetrack that we go to this year.
Well, this track today was more like Indy 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. It was very similar. It was extremely hot. Some of the drivers were a little worried about it, but Firestone, the tire manufacturer, they were not worried. They think they have a good tire for any kind of conditions here in Texas. It's hot down here on a lot of different occasions, and so they're always prepared for that.
Well, Dr. Bach had to prescribe some medication for a number of crew members after they were out in the cold and the wet last week at Watkins Glen. We understand about 5 actually from various teams went to the hospital for treatment.
Yeah, they actually, 5 of them, I think he said, had pneumonia, and they had to send them off to the hospital. So we ride along here with Thomas Schechter right in front of him.
Back in 6th position.
That was Kanaan who went to the outside trying to make that pass on Dixon. Couldn't do it, had to fall in behind him.
And the strategy here for the most part is plant your right foot as far down as you can and leave it there.
Yeah, basically you are flat out. Once you have to lift at this racetrack, you're in big trouble. You're going to lose a couple of spots.
Well, there's one apex, and right there's the second one.
Yeah, you have to hit both of those going through the corner down that front straightaway, and it's a very easy place to kind of misjudge and maybe pinch a guy off. But these guys are used to it. They've run here for several years now. Look at
Schechter stays on the high side to make a pass for position to get around Kanaan.
Well, he saw Kanaan have to climb out of the throttle just a little bit, and he took advantage of it, went to the outside and gained a spot.
Of course, it's very early in the race, but some of these guys could be sizing up the competition to see where they best can pass. The only problem is it's so early in the race that the chassis may well change. The handling characteristics will be totally different toward the end of this event.
Well, they will have to chase the chassis all night long. There's no question about it, because the difference in the temperature. It is going to cool down, maybe not a lot, maybe from 33 degrees down to maybe 29, but still it's going to be enough. And there goes Schechter again to the outside.
Well, Schechter has led 371 laps here, more than anybody else in the IRL. In fact, he has 3 pole positions in 6 races, and you can see he's on the charge right now. He likes that outside groove.
Well, he was, he drove for Panther Racing. Hornish drove for Panther Racing. We talked about Panther having a lot of wins here, but both those guys had a big part in all that.
Well, of course, you talk about the 2 drivers that drove for Panther in Hornish and Schechter. Both those guys like to run a high groove.
Yeah, and that's what you have to be able to run the high groove here in order to win races. Or not to win races, but in order to pass people, especially near the end. A guy who is leading the race at this racetrack near the end of the race, he's going to stay on the very bottom. So if you want to pass him, you're going to have to go to the outside.
Well, Hornish from the pole position led the first lap. Weldon took the lead on lap 2 and has led the last 10 laps. Now, Hornish won the pole position with the same engine, the same Honda that he won Indy with and ran last week at Watkins Glen. And then they changed the engine after he qualified with it. But you watch again the battle for position between Schechter on the high side and Tony Kanaan on the inside. And that's the battle for 5th spot. And they are still side by side off the corner, side by side right behind them as well. So Weldon continues to show the way over Sam Hornish. Elio Castroneves is 3rd, Scott Dixon 4th, then Tony Kanaan, then Thomas Schechter and Koski Matsura. Live coverage as Dan Weldon leads on lap number 20, the 200 schedule over Hornish, Castroneves, Dixon, and Kanaan. But there on the right side of your screen, you see Matsura coming into the fray. And he's back there in 6th position, and he's been running very, very competitive this season.
Yeah, he certainly has, and he's been very fast here in the early going. He followed these guys for about 4 or 5 laps. In the last 2 or 3 laps, he's pulled up on that outside, gotten around Schechter and a couple of other guys.
And coming into this evening's race, Penske drivers had led 64% of all the laps, and of course Hornish grabbed the lead at the start, actually picked up the throttle a little early on that start, and then Weldon got him on lap 2, and Weldon's led since that point.
Well, the whole trick to this racetrack is to stay in the draft and keep up with the leaders. As long as you can hang on to that draft and stay with those guys, you're going to have a chance. And look at Mira. He's moved up too. He's really come on strong since the start of this race.
Well, Mira back in the 8th spot.
He started back in 13th, so he's passed several cars here in the early going.
That's the battle with Carpenter right there. Eddie Carpenter on the inside. Vito certainly wants a win for himself, but that team needs a win to generate some exposure because they really need a sponsorship. I mean, here's a team, you simply cannot run at this level of competition with bare side pods.
No, you certainly can't. And Mira's Ed Carpenter's been doing a good job here today too. He started back in 12th, so both of those guys kind of side by side as they've moved up in the pack here in the early going.
Right behind them, Scott Sharp, who has won this race on 2 occasions. Right behind Sharp is Buddy Rice, then Dario Franchitti. But how about Felipe Giafoni? Did not get a time in qualifying, started dead last this evening. He's up to 13th position in the ABC car for A.J. Foyt.
Well, he was running pretty good yesterday. I watched him yesterday in practice. It looked like he was running very good after he put that new engine in. Buddy Rice coming on strong. That's, remember, first time he's been in the Dallara, and didn't qualify all that great, but he's gotten around several cars and now has his sights set on Vito Mira.
Look at this. Dixon just dropped a position.
Matsura
is on the ride. He's up to 4th position.
He just looked like he was shot out of a cannon when he went around. It looked like he was absolutely no way to stop him. He was,
Dixon had to check up for some reason.
Well, he might have. He might have gotten a little loose, had to lift just slightly, but it sure made it look easy for Matsura as he just went right on by.
Matsura is a driver that does everything in a very quiet manner. In fact, that entire team, Fernandez Racing along with Scott Sharp, they're very businesslike. They go about their business in a very quiet manner, and they produce some good finishes.
Yeah, I think Matsura is the fastest guy on the racetrack right now. Look how quickly he's caught Castroneves. He just pulled up beside him. Now that he's didn't complete the pass, but boy, he got in that draft, just pulled him right up beside him, though.
Well, the only driver that was fast that last lap was the car of Hornish. Hornish was in 2nd position. Actually, the fastest lap that last circuit. Matsura was 2nd quick.
Yeah, once they get side by side, they're both going to slow down a little bit. That's the reason the advantage to running nose to tail. Because once you get side by side, you're both breaking that wind, you're upsetting the air a little more, and you're going to slow down just slightly, and it makes it easier on the guys out front to pull away.
This typically, Larry, would be a 3-stop race, but there is some thought that some teams, depending on where the yellows might fly, will attempt to make this on 2 stops.
Well, I don't know that they're going to make it on 2 stops, but what it will do, it'll make it very interesting on the last stop to see if these guys, any of them, short pit to get out of sequence, don't take on a full load of fuel, whatever. So it's going to be a very interesting pit stop strategy on several of these guys' parts.
We're talking about cautions and when they might fly. Back in 97, 98, we had 8 periods of caution. That was the most here in the race. And on 7 occasions, 7 different races, we had 4 periods of caution. So the likelihood is we're going to have some periods of caution. But again, depending on where they come as to what the pit strategy may be.
And there you see Sam Hornish. You look at him out the back of Dan Weldon's car. And Sam Hornish right now just riding along, kind of eyeing things up, making sure he's got everything the way he wants it. Because come near the end of the race, he wants to make sure he's got an idea how he can go after him and make the pass to win.
Right now, as long as the number 10 car is out in front, he's picking up those bonus points for leading the most laps. So that's a little early in the race to be talking about that, but still, twice this season in the 5 races, he's picked up those bonus points. So right now, after 31 laps, Weldon leading Hornish. Castroneves still rides in 3rd position. And then it's Matsura in 4th, and Scott Dixon rounding out the top 5. Larry Rice, Gary Lee with our live coverage. We talk about how the chassis will change, and they chase the chassis. The weight changes, obviously, as they burn off the fuel before the next pit stop.
Yeah, so all those things are taken into consideration. You can see there Koksi Matsura has by far made the biggest jump at this point in the race as he's come from 10th up to 4th. Now all of a sudden it looks like he's kind of lost a grip. He got up beside Castroneves, tried to make the pass, and then just kind of has maintained his position ever since.
Well, of course, they don't want to go into the turn nose to tail because the following car would lose the air off the front wing. They want to stagger that car just a bit as they go through the corner.
Yeah, so, if you're a couple car lengths back, you can do that. If you're right behind the guy, though, you've got to give him about a half car length so you can keep that air on the nose wing of the car so the front end doesn't push out on you.
Now there's Scott Dixon now. Dixon back in the 5th position. You see Matsura in front of him, and Castroneves in front of Matsura, and we're about Larry 5 or 6, 7 laps away from the pit window.
Yeah, it won't be too long till they'll start coming in. You're going to see some guys run on pass. We're at 38 laps right now, 39 laps right now. Some guys are going to come in at 52 to 55. Others are going to try to stretch it as long as they can. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 cars go as far as maybe 60 laps just to see if there's a yellow.
Riding there with Marco Andretti for a moment. He is back now in the 16th position. The two rookies are on the racetrack together. Jeff Simmons, the other rookie, back in 17th. Now Cheever is back in 18th. And Buddy Lazier is 19th. So you have two past Indy 500 champions at the back of the field.
Well, Cheever did not qualify well. Neither did Buddy Lazier. So I'm not surprised to see those two guys running back there. I am surprised to see Marco Andretti running back there. He qualified much better than that, and seemed to be much happier with his car than that for most of the weekend.
Well, he started in 9th position, but right now Marco's back in 16th. He's lost 7 positions in the first 41 circuits of this race, but with the pit stop coming up, there may be some type of wing adjustment that can make him more competitive in that second segment.
I can promise you there will be some wing adjustments in that car when he comes in. Now, they cannot adjust the rear wing on these cars. Only at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is the only race where they can adjust the rear wing. So all the wing adjustments will be done with the front wings to try to get either more or less downforce on that front end.
You see all the lights flickering on the steering wheel.
Yeah, those steering wheels are so expensive and so sophisticated now. I mean, they can tell you just about everything that's happening on that race car at all times. And the driver, quite honestly, does not have time to look down there and keep track of all that stuff. There's way more information than he can use when he's out there racing.
You never had a steering wheel like that, did you?
No, I had one that was black, and it was always black.
And it was taped, right?
That's right.
It had tape on it.
That's right. Didn't have any red flashing lights or anything. But anyway, but under the yellow flag and in the pits, they will look at that kind of stuff. Or if the handling goes away, they might look at it to see if maybe they're losing tire pressure or whatever. But most of the time when they're out there, they're way too busy to look at all the gadgets on the steering wheel.
You see right behind Marco comes Jeff Simmons in the ethanol number 17, another of the Ray Hall Letterman entries, a teammate to Danica. And you see Danica right in front of Marco, and of course Buddy Rice. Buddy's up in 10th position right now.
Well, this is beginning to look like the Indianapolis 500 all over again, as Dan Weldon once again has moved out into a nice lead at this point. Boy, Sam Hornish pushed the front end. He went way up the racetrack that time, coming off the corner. So I'm sure he's going to be making some adjustments when he comes in too.
Well, the tires are starting to go away as well.
Yeah, and it is, as we said, it's very slick right now. You can see once again, very high off the corner Hornish came. So that's an indication that he's got a little bit of a problem with that front end not sticking the way he wants. Look at him again.
Very high to that corner.
Yeah. He's driving that thing for all it's worth, trying to keep his foot down as much as he can, but it takes off on him coming off of both 2 and off of 4.
So we're getting close now to the pit stops to make the change to the chassis and take on the fresh rubber. Weldon took the lead on lap 2. Has led since. They're on lap 48 right now. Hornish is second, Castronevic third. Matsura is up in 4th. Dixon is 5th. Kanaan 6th. Schechter is 7th. Sharp is 8th. 9th is Carpenter. 10th is Rice. 11th is Vitor Mira. Felipe Giafoni is 12th. Herta is now 13th. So Herta started at the back of the pack after changing the engine. He's up to 13th. But as you indicated, Larry, it's not so important where you start this race, because as you heard Scott Dixon say, you can fall at the back of the pack and make it all up with this banking.
Oh yeah, if you get the right setup, if you get things changed on your pit stop, you can get right back in the hunt very, very easily. So all these guys want to do, even though they're falling back a little bit, Mira and these guys we're looking at right now, Giafoni, if they go in, they make the right adjustments, it's not that difficult to get right back up. And there'll be a yellow, they'll get bunched up, and once you get bunched up again and you can stay in that draft, anything can happen.
There's Giafoni. You say he's picked up 7 positions since the start of this race. He did not take a qualifying time on Thursday, driving the ABC number 14, the number made so popular and famous by A.J. Foyt.
Yeah, and I watched him yesterday in practice, and he looked to be very quick out there in practice, and he's running laps at just about the same speed as our leaders right now. The difference is, if you just let off 1 or 2 laps, you make a mistake 1 or 2 laps, boy, you can lose a lot of ground.
Well, back up in front, the lead continues to grow, because you've got a leader that has a car that's working, and the guy in second maintains second, but his car's not working as well.
Yeah, and Dan Weldon is really smiling to himself. You mentioned earlier that he wanted to prove to everybody that he could win for more than one team. He's done that already this year, but I think he feels a little more pressure now that he's switched than he did when he ran for Andretti Green even, because he wants everybody to know that he's just not a one race car guy. He didn't win just because they had better equipment last year. He was a better driver, and he wants to prove that.
There's your gap between third and fourth. Castroneves, a two-time winner so far this season, also finished second in the opener at Homestead, and here comes Matsura.
Well, Matsura very quietly, as you said, having a terrific race. And he pulled up, he moved up very, very quickly. He got to Castroneves and kind of stalled, but he's still running just as quick as those guys and has himself in a very good position to come out after the next pit stop.
Matsura and Danica Patrick are presently tied for 7th in the point standings. There's Dan Weldon up in front. Weldon is now in 4th position in the standings. Now the pit stops are coming. They're laying out for Scheckter as well as the 55 car Matsura.
Yeah, those guys, for some reason, Scheckter seems to pit a little earlier than anybody else.
When he ran for Panther.
Yeah, he did that a lot.
With the Chevy.
And remember, we talked last year about Dan Weldon seemed to get better gas, better fuel mileage than anybody else on the Andretti Green team, even though everything was exactly the same. They looked at the computers. They couldn't see a lot of difference between the way the drivers drove. But for some reason, Weldon always seemed to be able to eke out 1 lap longer than anybody else could on the team.
Well, it is curious that you talk about Scheckter pitting early, as Matsura is the first to pit, and he left his 4th position to come in. But when Scheckter was riding with Panther in the Chevy, he was still the first to pit.
Right. Look at that. Some major. He had 2 turns on the left front and 1 turn on the right front. So he's definitely making some adjustments to that car.
He was making adjustments to the steering wheel as he was coming out.
Well, he got in and out pretty good. And here comes Scheckter heading for the pits.
Castroneves is also in.
Oh, a lot of people
shake up the standings. Adjustments to the front wing. Not quite as much as Matsura.
We're talking about, we were in lap 57, 58, so that's about the right time. Here comes Dixon's in.
Dixon.
So far, everybody's had a pretty nice, clean pit stop. No big problems.
And here comes Weldon. Caution on the racetrack.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Car number 5, Lazier, has stalled on the backstretch on lap 58. That brings out the yellow, and that'll create a problem because these guys have pitted. Hornish stays out. And there's a look at Lazier.
Well, that's interesting because he really hasn't stopped on the racetrack yet. I'm surprised they have. They did.
Hornish stays out,
and he hasn't pitted at all. So, unfortunately for Hornish, that's not good luck because what's going to happen is he's going to pit under the yellow, but he's going to fall in behind everybody else, and he's going to fall way to the end of the line, and that's. This is one time when the strategy.
Kanan also is out there.
Yeah, Kanan did not pit. So both of those guys, once they go in, they will come back out. But everybody else, nobody else lost a lap, I don't believe, on that pit stop. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I think they're going to be at the end of the pack once they get going again.
Well, there's Castroneves tucked in behind Kanan.
Well, he got out very quick. He must have got out of the pits before Weldon did, had a quicker pit stop. So
Shuttle Lazier being pushed back to his respective pit. So the first 2 now have not pitted. Hornish and Kanan. There's the maestro. There's the captain, Roger Penske.
Well, he can't afford not to pit. I mean, he's going to have to. They're going to have to come in. So, you know, it's just a tough break. It's just the way things fell. If they'd have pitted 1 lap sooner, they would have been in sync with everybody else. But now, because they stayed out an extra lap, it hurt them this time. Usually, staying out is a good thing. It helps you. This time, it did not.
Well, of course, we have seen Roger in the past not bring both drivers at the same time. You know, he staggers them. Well, now, how close is Hornish on fuel? They're saying Hornish is very, very close on fuel. He will stop this time by. The pits will be open.
Well, the worst thing that can happen, since it's under yellow, is the engine die. Well, the worst thing that can happen is he wouldn't make it back. Oh, he might have run out of fuel already. No, guess not. But if
he's slowed up right there.
Yeah, he's slowed up. I think he's trying to get enough momentum so he can coast on in if he does run out. But, you know, Even if the engine
look at
dies.
that. Kanaan stayed out.
Now that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Kanaan stayed out.
Unless he's thinking of trying to make this a 2-pit stop race. If Kanaan stays out and tries to make it a 2-pit stop race, that would be quite an accomplishment, because you'd have to run 66 laps on 1 tank of fuel.
Boy, look how long it took to put that fuel in there. He was at the bottom of the barrel.
Well, now he's going to have to go to the end of the line. So this will be.
There are those yellow lights you're talking about at the base of the.
And those are very noticeable for the drivers. They've really helped them a lot.
Well, they say it was very difficult at night to see where the track ended and the wall began. Under the first yellow of the evening, the scoreboard is showing Dan Weldon leading with Sam Hornish second. Tony Kanaan is third, and Castro Neves is fourth. But I question how Sam is up there in second position.
Well, what's happened is they all got back out. All those guys are going to get waved around the pace car, clear up to Hornish. So they are almost a lap down, but not quite. Just by virtue of the way the yellow flag fell, they all got back on the racetrack and are behind the pace car now, but almost 1 lap down to Dan Weldon. Because he had a nice lead, he got out and is ahead of everybody else out there except Sam Hornish. Sam Hornish, even though he pitted under yellow, was not quick enough to get out in front of Dan Weldon. That just shows you how quick he's been all day.
So you're saying on the restart that Weldon will be right behind the pace car, and second place will be
Hornish will be
pack or on back.
Yes, second, exactly. He'll be the first car behind the pace car. See, he's let's see if we can see how far back he is. He's way back there in the back. So,
well, we won't question timing and scoring right now, but we'll have to wait and see how this folds out, because there's a look at Hornish.
Yeah, I think
under yellow in lap 65 right now.
I think timing and scoring is correct. I think everybody on the racetrack except the last 3 cars will be motioned around the pace car. The last 3 cars are the only ones that are they're all going to move up. And there's your leader. He's third from the end. Then a lap car, Jeff Simmons, and then Hornish is back in second place. They're both almost a lap ahead. The point being, though, that Sam Hornish got to make his pit stop under the yellow. Everybody else lost a lap under that green flag pit stop. Hornish didn't, but Dan Weldon got out. Was so quick, he got back out and did not lose a lap, and therefore maintains the lead.
Well, that lap car is Jeff Simmons, and he is back in 17th position.
Right. So we'll wait and see, but I believe that's the way it's going to.
Now you can see those amber flashing lights in the corners. We're right at the base of the wall.
We talked earlier about this being a G-force. The G-forces are so great here. We run about 3.8 Gs through the corners. That's 3.8 times your body weight. So, and that made it very difficult at night, especially, to see the difference between the racetrack and the wall. Well,
a little pit strategy here.
I think so.
Top off the fuel.
No, something else going. No, that's all it is.
It is. Top off the fuel.
Well, he's already in the end. And see, he did that. Now, if he'd done it after they moved those guys around, he'd lost all that ground. But he came in just so he could get that little bit of extra fuel, because he's already in the back of the pack.
And this is why the captain, as a team owner, has won more races than any other car owner. It's good pit strategy.
Well, you know, he takes advantage of every little thing on the racetrack. He leaves nothing to chance. And you're right, that is one of the reasons that he wins. He's a master at choosing good people, and you know, as a master at team strategy.
Well, so right now we're under yellow, the first of the evening, on lap 67 of the scheduled 200. There's a look at Hornish, who is scheduled to restart in second position.
Yeah, he's not in any hurry
to
catch up with the pack. He's just kind of lollygagging around. There you see, everybody else was moved around, and Weldon is the first car behind the pace car.
So Jeff Simmons will be a lap off the pace.
Right, he'll be a lap off the pace, 17th, and then Hornish Now he got in and back out and maintained his second position. If he'd waited another lap to go in, then he would have had to fall in behind all those guys who've been way at the end.
There's the furl flag, 1 lap to go. Now keep in mind we have Eddie Cheever in 18th position on lap off the pace. We saw Buddy Lazier being pushed back to the garage area in car number 5. Jeff Simmons also a lap off the pace. He is in 17th position. So 16 cars in the lead lap. Dario Franchitti is back in 16th position.
Yeah, he's not having a good run at all for whatever reason. He's just having a terrible time. Danica Patrick, another one, and Marco Andretti. We'll see if he can move up from 14th, because so far he hasn't had that car handling very well either.
Should get the green this time by. Your leader again is Dan Weldon. Over 3 laps so far this evening. And immediately Jeff Simmons gets out of the way as the fastest cars go on by.
He just went to the bottom of the racetrack and let everybody go. And you can see here comes Kanaan and here comes Castanevis. They both got good restarts, even though they were behind some lap cars.
And then there's Schechter back there in car number 2 in 5th position.
Yeah, he actually, it helped him by getting in first this time. He was one of the first to come in, and actually worked his advantage this time around.
Weldon took the lead on the lap 2 and led through lap 57.
One guy who really lost out on that pit stop was Koksi Matsura. He fell clear back to 12th by virtue of a long pit stop.
Yellow again on the racetrack, the second of the evening. And that looks like the 15 car of Rice smoking.
Yep, that did not look like a good thing. The thing looks like it's dropped a valve in there, and that's usually terminal when you see blue smoke coming out the exhaust like that. These Honda engines have been very reliable and very good. They try to run them 1,200 miles. As you said, Castanevis, I don't mean Castanevis, I mean Hornish, used the same engine here that he used at Watkins Glen. And but right now, not a good thing for
the second yellow of the evening. The first was for perhaps an engine problem on the number 5 car of Lazier. They pushed that car back in. And now an engine problem on Buddy Rice's car.
And that again didn't look very good. So we'll see once they get under the green and get going again. We'll see if any of the changes anybody made can bring them back up with Dan Weldon. But right now, Dan Weldon still looks like the guy to beat.
Well, this should be a very short yellow period.
Yeah, they just go out and check to make sure there's no oil on the racetrack. There you see Buddy Rice taking his gloves off, so he's pretty certain his night is over.
We see Jack Arute down there with him, and you can see a very disgruntled expression on his face. Let's see if Jack can slide in there and get a comment from Buddy Rice.
Yeah, they're just talking over what happened, what didn't happen right now, trying to figure out if there's anything they could have had, and obviously nothing he could do.
Well, and I don't think he wants to talk right now either.
No.
Let's take a look again, and there it goes.
Right down the
maybe
back
more oil on that back stretch than we thought. It's maybe a longer yellow from Franchitti's car, and there you see it, and he's saying, all right, where do I go here to get out of the oil?
He went down to the bottom. He got there.
Immediately the observers catch it, and the yellow comes on. So the second yellow of the evening for an engine problem on Buddy Rice's car, and after 73 laps, Weldon leads Hornish, Kanaan, Castanevis, and Schechter under yellow. The yellow flag continues to fly. There's Dan Weldon leading after starting in second position. Hornish led the first lap before giving way to Weldon. Weldon led in 55 laps before his pit stop. Scott Sharp back in 6th position right now, but the 2 drivers that have passed the most cars would be Brian Herta in 8th after starting 19th, and Felipe Giafone in 9th after starting 18th.
Yeah, we'll see if Matsura can come back up through the field. He came up there very quickly the first time. We'll see if he can do it again, because they had a very poor pit stop, cost him a lot of time. And I actually don't think it was the pit stop itself. I think it was the entrance and so forth. Let's go down and see if we can get to Roger Penske and see if he can tell us exactly what's going on.
Penske, of course, pulled Hornish.
I thank you, Jack. Roger was getting ready to talk to us here, and he's going to watch because they're laying out some tires beside us, possibly for Dan Weldon to come in. So he wants to be able to watch what's going to happen there. And basically what Roger was saying here a moment ago, let me ask him, as they're watching, he's watching for Dixon to come in here. But he wanted to bring Sam Hornish back in to top him off. That's why they called him the captain, to top him off before the waiver round, figuring when they wave cars by, Sam will be almost back in the same spot he was in because Sam had pitted under yellow. And the teams out here said, what a gutsy move and what a great strategy move for Roger Penske. Now Roger's talking to Sam Hornish because he wants to keep an eye on what's going to happen with the Target Ganassi guys next to him here on pit road.
You wonder why perhaps they would bring Weldon in right now.
Well, they're front. Remember, he had nothing to lose when he went in and did that. If he went in now, or Weldon went in now, they would have to go to the back of the pack. So they're not going to come in at this time, at this point.
Well, here's a look at what Hornish has done on this size of racetrack. 8 wins. Scott Sharp has 5, as does Weldon. Buddy Lazier has 3. But he certainly is the master on this size racetrack. There's a good look at Marco coming in, and his teammate Dario Franchitti also was in. You see Mira, Patrick.
Yeah, and all the guys who came in and topped off, they were the guys from 10th on back. They didn't have a lot to lose. The guys up front did not want to come in. Let's go down and see if we can hear from Roger. Nope, I guess we're not going to. But anyway, it was, you know, it's the guys in the back who have nothing to lose. The reason it was a really cool move or neat move for Roger Penske was they did it right before they motioned all those cars around. So he was running in 3rd on the racetrack and had all that extra fuel.
So he picked up, what, 2 or 3 laps as far as fuel?
Exactly. A 2 or 3 lap advantage on everybody else that was running up in the front of the pack.
Green flag should fly the next time by as we complete lap 79. Rather lengthy yellow for the oil on the racetrack from Buddy Rice's car number 15, the 2nd yellow of the evening.
This is always kind of a cat and mouse game to see if one guy can outsmart the next. There's a cone out there. They're not supposed to accelerate before they get to that cone, but everybody cheats that just a little bit, trying to gain an advantage.
Well, let's see where Weldon will pick up the throttle. He has Hornish right on his heel. They're going to go 2 and 3 wide right away.
And you can see Castaneva's got under Kanan, moved him over.
Evans moves up 1 position. There's Kanan. You're right along with Dixon.
Dixon tried to follow him through there. He tried to follow Castanevas through there. Could not get under him as Kanan cut him off.
And Weldon again at the keyboard of car number 10 with that lead. You take a look at his teammate Scott Dixon, the winner 1 week ago at Watkins Glen.
Dixon back in 5th spot. He kind of lost contact when he didn't make that pass on Kanan. Schechter right behind him. He's caught up with him. Right now.
Behind Schechter is Ed Carpenter, his teammate. The Vision drivers are now 6th and 7th on the racetrack.
Sam Hornish for the moment has a bead. And here comes Mira on the outside. That bright orange car is Vitor Mira. As he got a nice run on Scott Sharp, but could not complete the pass once he got beside him.
These are 10th and 11th as you go back on board number 2. That is Thomas Schechter, who had led the most laps at this racetrack in some 6 outings. And right now, Thomas is in 6th position. He won this race 1 year ago from the pole position.
Yeah, and you can see, looks like he has fallen back a few car lengths behind those guys. The first 4 guys have got a little bit of a distance on everybody else, but nothing to be worried about. He's still in that draft. You can keep in that draft a ways back, but you don't want to get more than a half a straightaway behind.
Well, his teammate is right behind him, Eddie Carpenter, who has been very, very steady this season. Carpenter now in the 7th position. Brian Herta is 8th. Well, a couple of laps ago, Vitor Mira got very close and actually brushed the wall. And this is a couple laps ago on the outside of Matsuura.
Well, they went 3 wide.
Whoa! That was a disaster just waiting to happen.
Wow.
All three of those guys were lucky.
Wow. Somebody else got down off the track on the inside. That black car, couldn't tell exactly who that was.
That was Cheever, wasn't it?
Could have been. But yeah, Matsura just, look at the donut on the side of the car. You can see where Matsura's wheel went into him and pushed him into the wall. Actually, the contact with Matsura was much harder than the contact with the outside wall.
But that's how close they came to crashing in a big way.
Yeah, if you climb up over a wall just a little bit, it's unbelievable. Wow.
But he keeps his foot in it and keeps the pursuit of Scott sharp. Now watch this. Matsura moves up the racetrack and right into him.
Boy, did he ever.
And that was 51. That was the Cheever car down on the inside. It almost got collected.
Yeah, I think he saw the action on the outside and almost got too low on the inside and pulled off the racetrack.
That was a good battle back there with Herta and Sharp for 9th position. As you go back on board your leader, looking back at 2nd place Hornish, and right behind Hornish is his teammate Castroneves. Now Mira has gotten around Sharp for 9th position.
Well, Mira doesn't seem to be any the worse for wear and tear, even though that looked pretty scary. He still seems to be running pretty quick out there.
Well, that'd take your breath away for a lap or so, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he could, that thing's so round, he could almost have a Target sponsorship on that baby, couldn't he? Painted a little different color.
Looking back at 2nd, 3rd, 4th. 4th back there is Kanaan, who won this race 2 years ago. And there's Dixon, who won a week ago. Right behind Dixon comes Thomas Scheckter, who won here last year. And now Kanaan goes to the high side of Castroneves. And here comes Dixon. Who's he going to follow?
Well, right now, he's kind of
split in the middle.
Yeah. Kanaan would like to have had that help on the outside. He got up there. He couldn't complete the pass. Going to have to pull back in behind him.
And look at Scheckter. Scheckter goes to the high side of Dixon.
Sounded like he kind of burped the throttle just a little bit right there. And if he did, look at that.
Scheckter has him.
Scheckter got a good run on him.
Well, maybe Scheckter doesn't have him.
No, I thought he had. Sounded like from that in-car he might have burped the throttle a little bit. And usually when that happens, the guy on the outside can get a little bit of a run and make the pass.
Well, Scheckter has always been exciting running that high groove, as has, and that's Franchitti right behind him, isn't it?
No,
it's Carpenter. Carpenter right behind him. So now on lap 92, Weldon continues to lead this thing over Hornish, Castroneves, Kanaan, and Dixon. Live coverage, the first of 3 night races, will be on the air in 2 weeks from tonight from Richmond. As we take a look at your leader, Dan Weldon, who has led obviously by far the most laps here this evening. He's led all but about 3 circuits. The first, and of course the 2 when he made his pit stop. Hornish led the first lap and then led lap 58 to 59 under yellow after Dan had pulled in the pits.
And most of the night he's been chasing Dan Weldon and trying to figure out. He's pretty good at going to school. He's pretty good at learning, and that's what he's been trying to do.
Well, there's Elio Castroneves, 2-time winner. He's the driver that has led in all 5, the only driver that has led all 5 races so far this season. But Elio has yet to lead this evening. He's mired back there in 3rd position. Leads the point standings by virtue of 2 wins and a 2nd place finish. And he's 3rd in this race. And there's Tony Kanaan back there in 4th. Kanaan rides about 0.6 of a second behind the leader. Right behind Kanaan, number 9 is Scott Dixon.
And all 5 of those guys have kind of pulled away from the rest of the pack. Scott Dixon, I think most of the guys are pretty happy to be where they're at right now. I don't think they're not really pressing the issue to move up. If they get a chance, they will. If not, they'll stay where they're at.
Well, Dixon there is the gap between 1st and 5th. Dixon just over a second back in 5th position. But that's not a bad spot to be because so much can change here in the final half of this race. They've just completed 100 laps. 100 laps to go. There's Eddie Carpenter now in 6th position. So Carpenter's gotten around his teammate Scheckter.
Well, this is definitely the best run we've seen him have all year long. He seems very comfortable here at this racetrack. He told us earlier that he liked Texas, and boy, he's been running very, very well. And you can see right there, he's gotten around Schechter, which we haven't seen very often. Well, we haven't seen it at all this year, I don't think.
Well, Schechter now rides back in the 7th position. Of course, Eddie Carpenter, the only driver that came up through midgets and sprint cars, which is the way, obviously, Larry, all the guys of your generation came up through that type of motorsports competition. And Eddie Carpenter, the only driver in the race here this evening that came from quarter midgets to midgets and sprint cars. And there's a look at Scott Sharp, who is starting his 121st race, the veteran driver in this series, a former champion of this series and a 2-time winner here at Texas. He's in 8th spot right now this evening, driving for the Fernandez race team.
Yeah, and he has won at this racetrack. He knows this racetrack well. The big thing is you've got to get the race car right. You've got to get it working if you want to win here at Texas.
We got a glimpse of that bright orange car right behind him. Vito Mira back in the 9th position. There he is, and I tell you what, he needs a good ride here this evening.
Well, he's had a good ride. He started out extremely fast. Kind of lost the handle there at the end of that first segment. Came back and was running really well at the first part of this segment, and then he and Matsura got together. Matsura's the one who's kind of been up and down. There he is right behind Mira right now.
Well, he looked like he wanted to make a high side pass, then tucked it back behind him. Now goes to the high side again.
And whatever he did right for the first 20 laps, he hasn't been able to repeat that since, because he was one of the quickest cars on the racetrack for the first 20 laps.
And this is going on about 4.5 seconds behind your leaders on lap 106. Pick up Felipe Giafone driving for A.J. Foyt. He's in 11th position and really having a quiet but good ride here this evening, because they did not get a qualification time on Thursday. Had to go to the back of the pack for the start of this race.
It's still one of his better runs of the year. I mean, they've had some trouble with that car. They've had some trouble with the handling. Remember, at Indianapolis, he looked like an accident waiting to happen. Almost.
And it did happen.
Yeah, it finally did happen, but he kept it under control for most of the race, but finally crashed. But the race car was so loose, he fought it all day long.
Brian Herta made an engine change after qualifying, went to the back of the pack. And now he is up in 12th position.
And I'm sure
Andretti Green team members.
I'm sure he's not happy with that. I think he expected much better of himself going into this race, but so far it just hasn't happened.
Well, Danica is back in 13th position. Danica did not qualify well. She started 15th, and of course, again, this is a new package for Rahal Letterman, the Dallara chassis. They had the Honda engine, but this is the first race for Buddy and Danica in this chassis, and quite honestly, Larry, it may take a couple, 2-3 races to dial that thing in.
Well, yeah, the engineers are going to have to figure it out. She's going to have to figure it out. She complained all year long of having a loose race car, no grip. Now all of a sudden she's got a race car with too much grip, and they're going to have to work on that aspect of the race car same as they worked on the other.
There's Marco, the leading rookie in the series, with a big point spread right now over P.J. Chesson and Jeff Simmons. Marco now back in 14th position, so really not the ride that we expected from Marco.
Well, and I think it's not the ride he expected of himself, but you know, once in a while you get things off a little bit, and you just you know, you do the best you can, and then you worry about it and go on. That's all you can do.
Well, and we've got a couple of Andretti Green Team members at the back of the pack. There's Dario Franchitti, and Dario's back in 15th position.
Actually, everybody but Kanaan was having a bad night. All the Andretti guys except Kanaan are having a bad night for whatever reason, and probably the reason is they all kind of picked the wrong setup, and if you do that here, you're just going to be in trouble. That's all.
Well, back up in front, it's status quo. It's still Dan Weldon with a car length advantage over Sam Hornish. Castroneves is still in third. You see him back there lurking behind Hornish. And you've got Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan in 5th position with 112 laps now complete. Under green, Dan Weldon here now with 113 16 laps complete as we run through the top 10. And, how far will they stretch it out? Last pit stop for Dan Weldon was on lap 57. And he's on lap 117 now. So another 7 laps, maybe 5 to 7.
Yeah, probably not going to be too much longer. Of course, they're going to try to stretch it as long as they can, because if there are a lot of yellows in the last part of the race, they might be able to go the rest of the way without a pit stop. But
keep in mind that Sam Hornish has a few extra laps in that tank over Weldon.
Yeah, so it
has about 9 laps more than Weldon.
Yeah, because he came in and re-topped that thing off, so it could play to his advantage big time. If he can make it another 10 or 12 laps, he might be able to go in just a 2 pit stop race. Well, a 2 pit stop and a splash under the yellow.
2.5.
Yeah. Could be a huge difference for him. But the way we've seen things happening with the tires, you know, the tires may not last all that long. Seems like some of the guys have started losing grip after about 40 laps out there. In the last 20 laps on a pit stop segment, they start going backwards.
Well, Weldon has been at the top of the leaderboard all but 3 laps in this race.
And as we say that, he has been right on Weldon's tail the whole time. And
just now.
Exactly. And that's because he's getting late in this segment. He's got 50 laps or so on those tires, and the more tires, he did this the last time. Near the end of the segment, he started losing ground. Weldon's the only one that seems to be able to maintain about the same speed all through a segment.
Well, give Weldon the 3 bonus points for having led the most laps, because nobody now can lead more than he has led here this evening. Weldon, for the 3rd time this season, picks up the 3 bonus points. He comes into the race some 25 points behind Castroneves. So we've still got a long season to go.
Well, we certainly do. And boy, Dan Weldon just appears to have things going his way. He and his engineer really got their car handling well at just about every racetrack they go to. And look at that top 4, the 4 guys, Team Ganassi and Team Penske, they have just absolutely pulled away from everybody else by a mile, really. They're 2 seconds ahead of the guy in 5th place.
Weldon can take over the laps led lead. He was second to Castroneves, but he's led enough to take that over at the end of this race this evening.
Now, Kanaan, look how far Kanaan has fallen back here in the last 5 or 6 laps. He's fallen a half a straightaway behind these top 4 guys. And once again, we see Hornish start heading for the outside. That front end is pushing, and it just pushes him right up towards the sea. How much higher he's running now than he did. That's a sure indication that the tires are starting to go away in his car.
Well, I still can't see them making a one-stop race out of this now. I can't, one more stop.
Well, there's
still 75 laps to go.
There's still 75 laps to go. Kurt has already been in, so they're starting to stop. They're starting to make their second pit stop. It's going to be very close. There's going to be a lot of strategy involved, because most of these guys are going to have to make 2 stops. They're going to have to stop now and then make a splash and go right near the end of the race.
A timed stop just for fuel. Now you see the number 7 car going a lap off the pace after his pit stop. You'll lose a lap in the pit lane. But when will the leader make his stop? He stopped the last time on lap 57.
Well, you would think that it wouldn't be many more laps. We talked about what good fuel mileage Dan Weldon can get, but you can only stretch it so far. And here comes Castroneves. He couldn't take it any longer.
Once again, the captain will stagger the pit stops for Castroneves and Hornish. See how long it takes to top off the fuel. They can change the tires before they actually refuel the car. There goes Dixon.
Both very good pit stops. They went in just about in that order. Castroneves just slightly ahead of Dixon. They came out together so they can draft together to try to catch back up with their leaders. So that was a good stop by both those guys. And here comes Weldon.
Here comes Weldon. So he has led. He took the lead on lap 2 and only relinquished the lead during his first stop. There's Kanaan.
You can see
Weldon.
every one of them, they're making sure they get every ounce of fuel they can in there, just in case there's enough yellows that they can stick it out to the end. They're not going to pull that fuel hose out, so they're absolutely sure that thing is chocker block full.
We only had 2 leaders this evening in Hornish and Weldon. Weldon, with the exception of the first lap that Hornish led, has only relinquished the lead when he's made pit stops.
Yeah, Weldon seemed like he's either got his fuel in a lot faster than everybody else, or he didn't take as much as everybody else, because he had a very quick pit stop. Wow, he got in and out. I'm not sure he took on a full load of fuel.
Hornish waiting for him to make his stop. Hornish will be in this time. Here he comes.
He didn't get all that many more laps, even though he came in for that splash. He didn't get all that many more laps or fuel mileage out of that thing.
So he comes in lap 131.
See right there, he's taking a tear-off off, trying to make sure he's ready to go. Once he put that thing down and tell him to go, he doesn't want to have to mess around. He wants to be able to go.
Scott Sharp becomes the 3rd leader of the evening. He has yet to make that pit stop. And Matsura, who has yet to stop, is now in 2nd. Vito Mira up in 3rd. There's Scott Sharp.
Yeah, I don't see any way. They're all going to have to come in and get another splash of fuel. They just can't make it to the end with 68 laps to go.
And Sharp, we understand, can stay another 10 or 12 laps.
Well, that's part of the fuel strategy. If he can really do that, these guys might gain an advantage. Remember, these guys all came in right at the end. There were 4 or 5 of them that came in right at the end of that last segment. Here comes Matsura. The Sharp and Mira, all those guys stayed out.
Marco Andretti up to 3rd now. But again, he will have to stop, and that will cycle him back.
But they will not have to stop again. Those guys will probably be able to go, well, they will be able to stay out there long enough that they will not have to stop again, because they've made that very late pit stop last time out.
Somebody was very, very observant, because they held Koski up until Danica came through because if they brought him out, they're going to crash right there in the pit lane.
Well, and that's what the guy on the right front tire is supposed to do. He's supposed to manage traffic, not send you out into somebody so there's a crash in the pit lane.
So right now it's Scott Sharp, and here he comes.
Yeah, he didn't stay out as long as they thought he could. He had to come in, so.
That should give Vito Mira the lead, which would be but he's pitting now.
So everybody, all these guys would manage to go about 58 laps. Uh-oh, they didn't get the right front on. So that'll hurt him. That'll hurt him. That'll cost him time on the racetrack. Here's Marco.
Sounds ready. Watch the guy on the right front. Said no, shook his head no, and they said, okay, let's go.
Well, you can see Marco let out. He started to go. He started to take off, and they held him.
So after the round of pit stops, guess who's back in the lead? You're riding with him right now.
Well, they're going to be about 8 or 10 laps short of being able to make it to the end. So everybody will have to stop again.
And it all depends on whether we have a yellow, is whether it's a splash and go or a full pit stop, 4 tires as well as fuel. So in lap 141, Dan Weldon leads this thing over Castroneves, Hornish, Dixon, and Kanaan. We mentioned that coming into this evening's race, Castroneves was the only driver that had led in every race this season. Well, so far, he's not led here this evening.
No, he hasn't, but he's still sitting there lurking. He's pretty close to the first 2 guys as we ride along with Thomas Schechter, who's fallen back to 10th place right now.
Well, Schechter, as you indicated, now back in the 10th position. Matsura is in front of him. Eddie Carpenter, his teammate, is up in 8th.
Well, he got a pretty good pit stop. Not sure exactly what happened that he fell back a couple of spots.
They're back in 10th spot, but again, there's one more stop to go. Looking lap for 143. We've got 2 caution periods, the least cautions we ever had. We had 4 caution periods on 7 different occasions. So if we go to the finish here, we can set a track record in the least caution laps.
Yeah, Matsura in front of Scheckter. That's his teammate, Eddie Carpenter, right in front of Matsura. So he and his teammate Carpenter running very near the same lap times right now.
You got to tip your hat to Eddie Carpenter. He's done it in a quiet way. He was never spectacular. Didn't get a lot of attention as a rookie or even as a sophomore driver, but seems to improve virtually every race.
Yeah, and this is definitely the best race he's had all year long. He's very quick here on this particular racetrack.
Well, you're looking back off the lead car, number 10, the Weldon machine, the Ganassi Target entry. Looking back at Elio Castroneves, then Sam Hornish is in 3rd.
Yeah, Dixon back there a little ways behind those 3. But these 3 guys have been pretty much stuck together the whole race. And Sam Hornish is either very content to run in 2nd place, or he just can't muster up enough gumption to get around in 3rd. I'm sorry. He ran in 2nd for most of the race. After that last pit stop, he fell back one more spot.
We talked about the battle this season between the Penske drivers, the Ganassi drivers. Look at the top 4.
Yeah, and
your leader is from Ganassi, your 2nd, 3rd from Penske, and 4th is Ganassi.
Scott Dixon, those 4 cars really have pulled away from the rest of the field. We've talked a lot about how close the field stays here and how bunched up they stay, but those 4 guys have certainly been a class here all by themselves tonight.
Well, Tony Kanaan now is 8.5 seconds behind the leader in 5th position. Scott Sharp has moved up to 6th. I say moved up, I mean he had the lead for 1 lap and came in for the pit stop, but the only reason he had the lead is because the other guys had pitted in front of him.
Yeah, we're looking at Franchitti and Marco, and they're just having a bad night. Franchitti and Marco Andretti back there running for 14th and 15th position and going nowhere fast. You can see Marco got under Franchitti and thought, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to crash him running back here in the back of the pack. He got out of the throttle, but Franchitti right there gave him room. He just couldn't take advantage of it.
And that is Jeff Simmons back there in car number 17, the green and blue car. That's the ethanol car. There's all these cars this season running on 10% ethanol, and they're going to run 100% ethanol next season. And we may see more and more of the ethanol being used in motorsports in this country.
Yeah, Franchitti and Marco both down a lap, and there you see Marco finally get around Franchitti, but very uncharacteristic for Franchitti to be running this bad at this particular racetrack.
Let's see if Simmons has a shot at him. So 50 laps to go. 50 laps, 25% of the race to go. It's been all Weldon out in front. The Andretti Green team members, Tony Kanaan there in 5th position, and he's had the only good ride of this group.
Yeah, you can see the rest of them not even in the top 10.
in 11th. And then Marco in 14th and Dario in 15th.
I'm sure
not characteristic of Andretti Green.
I'm sure Michael after this race will they'll sit down and say, hey guys, we kind of lost our way here. What's going on? Because this is completely uncharacteristic. I thought just the opposite. I thought coming into this race after the last race, Marco getting knocked out, I thought these guys would be pretty gung-ho, but boy, they've really missed the setup here tonight.
Kyle Moyer is the team manager on that Andretti Green bunch. In fact, he began his racing career as a mechanic for Gary Bettenhausen, who was a neighbor of Gary's, and actually at the age of 12, Kyle was cutting Gary's grass. As he got a little older, Gary said, how would you like to work on my sprint car? And put him to work. And from the sprint car, he went to work on the IndyCar, and by golly, now he's a team manager for Andretti Green. But I think you're right. There will be a debriefing, a very serious debriefing of this event and what went wrong, and they were not more competitive because they have now some 47 laps to go, and Weldon still is the guy to beat. Live coverage on lap 158 as Weldon continues to lap some of the back markers. Castroneves right behind him, Hornish right behind Castroneves. right along with your leader right now, and that is the number 7. And boy, he got very high coming off that corner.
Boy, he certainly did. He got behind Herta, and for some reason the air went off of that front wing, boy, and he took off to the wall. You can see him get way out of the throttle. I'm surprised Castroneves didn't get around him right then. Evidently Castroneves wasn't close enough to make a run on him because he got way out of the throttle.
Castroneves wasn't close enough to make a run because he was going through traffic himself. Trying to get by Giafone.
Look at this.
Here comes Dixon on the inside, using Giafone as a pick, and he's going to go by for 3rd position.
Well, that's what we said. The traffic may help some of these guys. Right there, it helped Dixon. So
that's Herta, the number 7 car. So Dixon goes to 3rd. Hornish drops to 4th. Kanaan is still 5th. Sharp is 6th. Mira is now 7th. Eddie Carpenter is 8th. Matsura is 9th, and 10th is Schechter. I will show you a replay of how this happened, riding along with your leader right on there. This is the pass for 3rd position. There's 3rd up on the right. That's Hornish.
He just got up there, got a little bit loose. You can see the back end get loose, and then he went around the outside. Dixon just took advantage of the bottom of the racetrack where there was a lot more room because Giafone had moved up in the middle of the racetrack to try to give him some room.
And look at this. Dixon tries the inside of Castroneves. This is the battle for 2nd. Well, Dixon all of a sudden is getting racing.
Well, Brian Herta giving everybody a little bit of a problem there. When they're trying to get around, he's running so quick that they don't get a good run on him. Can't get around him very fast.
Well, they get by him there in the 3rd turn. Now they're by Herta.
All 4 of them got by that time. Hornish too. So he just pulled down to the bottom and said, "Okay, go ahead, guys. I'm not going to give you any more trouble."
So it's still Weldon, Castroneves, Dixon, and Hornish. So you've got Ganassi, Penske, Ganassi, Penske, and then Kanaan for AGR. And Sharp for Fernandez, and Mira for Panther. Panther Racing's won at this racetrack 5 times, with Vitor now up to Vitor up to 7th. Doesn't appear to be in a challenging position for a victory here this evening.
Well, those first 4 guys, they seem to be the class of the field. I mean, the 4 of them have been able to pull away from even Kanaan here in the latter portions of the race. Kanaan, for the first 40 or 50 laps, maybe even 70 or 80 laps, seemed to be able to stay up with this lead pack. But since then, he's not had that luxury. They've been pulled away.
Well, Scott Sharp in car number 8 made a pit stop on lap 135. Now, can he stretch it maybe with the yellow to the finish? The others in front of him will have to stop. But Scott Sharp, Vito Mira both stopped on lap 135.
Well, that would be 65 laps. Without yellows, I don't think they can make it. You know, 58 laps, 59 laps is about the max. But if they had some yellows, if they had 5 or 6 laps of yellows, they might be able to make it.
If you have a yellow, they're all going to stop anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, not necessarily. If you got a chance to win the race, you could stay out there and not make that stop.
But he would have to have, what, Larry, 10 laps of yellow maybe?
Probably 10 laps of yellow. They would be able to stretch it to the end. Yes, that's right.
And they might as well, because that was the only chance that they would have.
That's right. It's the only chance you got to win. He's not going to win it by out racing these guys or having a faster car. So maybe he can stay in front. If he stayed out there, maybe he could stay in front long enough to pull up the win.
Sharp right behind Kanaan. So you have 5th, 6th, and 7th on the racetrack right together. Kanaan, Sharp, and Vitor Mira.
Yeah, Scott Sharp right now running probably as fast as he's running the whole race and giving Kanaan a little problem. Kanaan has fallen back out of that lead pack of maybe a whole straightaway back.
Kanaan's been the shining star for Andretti Green this evening.
Yeah, he really has. And right now it's not shining near as bright as he wants it to, I can tell you.
He's replaced the batteries in that flashlight. Right now there's a look at the Delphi entry for the Fernandez Racing number 8 for Scott Sharp, who's won twice on this racetrack.
We're talking about shining stars. I just want to say a quick hello to George Tatnall. He's having some health problems down in Sydney, Australia. We want to wish him and his family, his brother Joe, the best, and hope he's doing okay.
Vito Mira needs a very good finish here this evening with a lot of focus on that team, that they might be able to put some lettering on the side pods. They had hoped to announce, in fact, this week a major sponsor, and at the very last moment the sponsor decided not to come on board.
Yeah, it's always a tough break. It's always a big disappointment when you're trying to put too much money to go, but you just, when something happens, there's nothing you can do, and they were very, very disappointed that didn't fall through.
Well, as we were watching Sharp and Mira back there, you missed nothing at the front of the pack because it's still welded over Castro Nevis, Dixon, and Hornish. Those are the top four. Weldon has led all the laps except for the ones he lost in the pit during his 2 pit stops. So Weldon, the class of the field here, with 28 laps now to go in Texas. Live coverage, you're not missing a thing as Dan Weldon continues to lead this thing over Castro Nevis, Dixon, Hornish. Scott Sharp has gotten around Kanaan for 5th position. There's a battle for 5th now with Vito Mira and Tony Kanaan, but right now you're right along with the leader. And just by a nose, Scott Sharp had that position. Now Tony Kanaan goes back by on the inside.
Yeah, and you can see still the top 4 guys actually have a nice lead. They're all running very close to each other. Everybody else 13, 14 seconds behind, almost a half a lap behind.
The leader now has gone 51 laps since his last pit stop.
So they're going to have to stop here. They're going to stop with about 10 laps to go. Somewhere between 10 and 12 laps to go, they're going to have to stop and get a time fuel stop for about 5 seconds, enough to get them to the end. Mira looks like he's a little bit quicker than those guys. Of course, when you're running,
the track is blocked, he can't get by him.
There's no place to go. He tried to go to the outside. There's just not enough room. We have seen Sam Hornish made a 3-wide pass here a couple of years ago. I'm not sure that's going to be the case anymore, though. It doesn't seem to have as near as much grip around the top of the racetrack as it used to.
Well, and if in fact he knows he's faster, it has to be frustrating that he does not have a lane to utilize.
Well, he doesn't want to get up there and too much farther than he was right there.
He'll be causing the yellow flag that he needs.
Exactly. He'll be utilizing a lot more than
the racetrack has to offer.
Exactly.
Run out of real estate. All right, lap 182. They're working lap 182 as we watch this battle for 5th position. Good 3-way battle. But up in front, it's still the number 10. There's Herta. On the inside, they go by him.
Yeah, he
still, Dan Weldon leads Castro Nevis, Dixon, and Hornish.
Those 2 guys have been running side by side. That's the kind of racing we were accustomed to seeing here all the time, side by side, lap after lap after lap. And Mira wanting so badly to make a pass on these guys, but no place to do it.
I think here comes Kanaan. Oh, I thought maybe Kanaan was headed for the pits. He got real low on the racetrack. Is Kanaan coming in? Yes, yeah, Kanaan's coming in. And there's Castro Nevis.
Yeah, I was like you. I thought he decided to come in and then decided to go back out because he pulled back up about that big white line. They are going to change tires.
Full pit stop for Castro Nevis.
That's interesting. But they
didn't take on that much fuel, though.
All they did, they changed tires. As soon as he had new tires, they set him off. They knew that in 6 seconds he could get enough. Dixon's come in, too, and made a pit stop.
No tires on Kanaan, just fuel.
As a time pit stop, they gave him
track position, of course.
Right. Trying to get just enough fuel to make it to the end.
Weldon's gone 57 laps.
Uh-oh, somebody's out of fuel.
Certainly acting like he is. That's the 14.
Giafone looked like, acted like he was.
Here comes Weldon. And that will give Hornish the lead. Hornish pitted 3 laps after Weldon the last time around.
Well, we'll see now. This is going to be important. We'll see. I think Castro Nevis made a very interesting move. He put on tires. We'll see if these guys do too. Nope. Yep, they've got the tires out there. Yep, they're going to put them on. They think the tires are going to be important enough because they go away enough that. Wow,
they'll give him more fuel.
Oh, he had a The guy on the right rear was slow. The fuel was out. The guy on the right rear did not get the right rear on. So it might be another case where pit stop will really hurt him.
Here's Schechter for the final time this evening.
Most of these guys are taking on tires, and as soon as the tires are on, they send them out because they know they'll have enough fuel in the time it takes to put the tires on to go the rest of the way.
Well, Hornish is leading this thing. Scott Sharp is up to second. Vito Mira is up to third. Now will Vito Mira and Scott Sharp try to stretch it out?
I'm surprised Hornish has not made it in. We'll see what happens with the tires, because it appears...
He's gone 53 laps since his last stop.
And it appears that...
58 actually, 58 for Hornish.
He started, it appears he's kind of getting a little bit loose again as it goes way up the racetrack. The new tires would help. We'll see what he does, though. It's be an interesting call by the captain.
Oh, there'll be 10 laps remaining this time by. 10 laps remaining. There is Danica. Okay, 190 complete, 10 laps to go. When will he come in? And when he comes in, Scott Sharp will have the lead. With Vito Mira in second. Vitor has finished in second position 5 times during his career. These guys may try to stretch it out. Hornish can't.
Well, I tell you,
I don't think.
I don't either. He's already run
he's going to 69 laps. He'd have to go 69 laps.
He's
only for Matsuura. He's out.
Hornish is going to have to head down in the pits. Here he comes.
Here he comes. Here he comes.
60 laps is really stretching it. And here comes Scott Sharp. He couldn't make it either. He had to come in.
So is Vito Mira going to stay out? Lead a lap?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's going to be able to make it.
Sharp will come in and take fuel only. A time stop for Scott Sharp.
A 4-second stop.
And here comes Hornish.
He'll probably only take fuel only too. We'll see how much difference the tires make. Yep, fuel only. 4-second stop. Oh,
he stalled it. He stalled it.
Well, there goes his chance.
There goes the race for Hornish.
You could hear the engine was stuttering, though. He must have been so close to being out of fuel.
There you got to go.
He was so close to being out of fuel that the engine was stuttering going back out on the racetrack. So that was a bad break for Sam Hornish. They played their strategy a little bit too close that time, and it's going to cost him big time.
Mira got out in front of him.
Yeah, Mira got out
in front of him.
He's going to come back out in about 7th or 8th place instead of the top 3.
Well, let's see how this thing shakes down now. There's a look at Scott Sharp and Sam Hornish. Well, the scoring is showing Elio Castroneves out in front of this thing.
Well, he might have got out.
So he leads for the first time this evening, and that again would make his string continue that he's led in every race so far this season.
Now, he and Dixon and Weldon all took on tires. Obviously, it took everybody else a little bit longer to get their tires and fuel in than it did him. Kanan, he only took on fuel only, so... We'll see what happens here. These guys...
Now there's Castroneves, and he is your leader. So on the pit stop, he got out ahead of Dixon and Weldon.
Yeah, and he's got a pretty good lead on those two guys.
Well, I can tell you right now, Weldon is 2 seconds back, and if Weldon does not win this thing, he's not going to be a real happy driver.
He's going to be absolutely furious, because they came in and they took on tires during that last pit stop, and it was him, wasn't it his crew? It was his crew that took long on the right rear, and that's what cost him all that time. They had the fuel out, the fuel hose was out, but they had to leave him on the jack because the right rear didn't go on properly.
3 laps to go, and Hornish, or make that Castroneves, is out in front.
Well, Scott Dixon is closing in on him. Scott Dixon is catching him. But if he's got enough, that's him, the 3rd car back is Scott Dixon. The question is, does he have enough time? I doubt it.
I think he does.
No.
I don't think he does. With a little over 2 laps to go, you're right along with Weldon, and you know Weldon right now is just fuming in that cockpit. That's the 2 car of Scheckter. Scheckter now is back in 10th position.
Yeah, he's a lap down. He's the car between.
But he'll get over, I'm sure, and let them go by if they get close enough.
Yeah, he's not going to get close enough. Castroneves is
the white flag this time by. There's the white flag. 1 lap to go. Castroneves looking for his 3rd victory of the year.
Again, it was that last pit stop that did it. And look at Weldon. He is on the move. He is absolutely, talk about furious. He's caught those guys. He's made up a whole second. He's just got no time left. Another 5 laps, he might have something.
And there it is. He did not lead till late in the race, but that's when it counts.
All you have to do is lead the last one. He got in and out. The pit strategy paid off perfectly for him. The pit strategy for Weldon wasn't that bad. They just had a bad pit stop. It took him a long time to put that right rear on, and because of that, it cost him the victory. Your points leader stretches out. Look at this.
Look at that look of frustration.
You think he's upset? I guarantee you he is really.
He took 2nd and 3rd, and he'd trade in 2nd and 3rd for a win.
Yeah, he's not a happy man right now.
They had the fastest car driver combination throughout this race. Only 2 yellow periods. That's an all-time low for this racetrack for the IndyCar series. And 4 periods on 7 different occasions. But Castroneves will, Spider-Man will again climb the fence. His 3rd victory of the year, and that will increase his lead in the point standings, although the bonus points for the most laps will go to the number 10 car of Weldon. But I think he'd trade that in right now for leading just 1 lap this evening, the last one.
Yeah, Weldon has got to be the most disappointed guy. This is 2 out of the last 3 races where he's led the most laps, but still has not come home in the winner.
Spider-Man, for the 3rd time this season, climbs the fence.
Well, you got to give it to him. He is a showman. And he's just such a likable guy, too. I mean, always smiling, always
He was
laughing.
all fired up at the driver intros when they came down the grandstand this evening.
I mean, he's always in a great mood. He's the kind of guy that everybody likes to be around. We went to a function during the end of the month of May, and my wife went up and asked him to have a picture taken, and he was, you know, you would think somebody like that wouldn't have time to talk to just anybody that walks up, but he was more than happy, very gracious, said, for you ladies, anything. Let's see what Dan Weldon's got to say.
Stop.
I think we just, you know, I'm not really sure. The boys always put in a lot of effort, and the Target Chip Ganassi racing car was very fast, but we gifted another win to Penske, and we can't afford to do that.
What's going on with this bad luck streak you told me about earlier? What is it going to take to break this thing?
I have no idea, but we just got to keep working hard, and you know, I think everybody at Target Chip Ganassi Racing can put together a car that's very fast, and obviously the Honda engine's always very reliable and good, so just got to keep working.
Definitely Dan Weldon, guys. He knows how to win. He's a champion, defending champion of the Indy Racing League, and
well, you also know he does not want to talk. No. He was gracious. He was gracious and gave her a couple of comments, but he wants to head back to the solitude of the garage area and then on to his probably motor home.
In a word, he is mattered up.
Yeah, matter in what?
Yeah, an old wet hand, man. He is really upset, but he was very gracious to grant that interview, I must say, because he knows that they had that race won.
They gave it away. They gave it away on that pit stop.
All they had to do was have a good, clean last pit stop, and whatever happened on that right rear, when the, you know, the
and in retrospect, they probably just should have gone with fuel.
Well, yeah, but you don't ever know that. Castroneves took on tires and still won the race because he thought it would help him, you know, his lap times enough. But who knows? When you have trouble, when something goes wrong in the pits, you can't
how many times, Larry, we've watched this racing series and we've watched Roger Penske. How many times has Roger won the race with a car that was not the fastest? You know, didn't handle as well as maybe somebody else's, but he won it on pit strategy.
Let's go down to Sam Hornish, see what he's got to say about it.
And again, a pit stop that put you guys down. Sam, looked like you were making the charge to take this win, but what happened?
We ran out of fuel coming into the pit lane. it's kind of a bummer because we save fuel the whole time, but we win as a team and we lose as a team. So unfortunate circumstances for the 6th car, but Elio went out there and won the race when those other guys had problems in the pits, but had them all right where we wanted them. And if you run out of fuel and you got to restart the car, you can't really do a whole lot about that.
So that's all about strategy. You guys are pushing to the last second.
Well, it said that there was still 7 tenths of a gallon in there, and obviously there wasn't. So we ran out coming down pit lane. The engine barely kept running, and as soon as they started putting fuel in it, it just wouldn't start. So kind of bad day, but what are you going to do about it?
Sam Hornish Jr., though, kept his foot on the throttle, guys, and he took it to the end and made a pass at the line.
So much for computers and calculators.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You could hear that thing stuttering when he started to take off. You could tell it ran out of fuel. I mean, it was sputtering and coughing. He just couldn't get enough fuel to go in there to keep the engine running, and that's what cost him. So sometimes it's not only, you can't say it's all luck. I mean, their strategy was right. They just were unlucky with that last little bit.
Their calculations were wrong on how much fuel they had left.
Exactly. And we said when he went in there that he'd already run 61 laps. Let's go down and listen to Elio.
On the pits, that's why we won the competition today. At Indy, and in and out laps were really good. The car was handling good. At the beginning, you had to adjust, but he was telling me, Cindy was telling me, save fuel. I said, no way, I'm gonna keep going. But this guy, man, he believed me, and everybody's believing me. And what a great team! I couldn't ask for a better result.
You're talking about Tim Cindric, reporting to the guy who made the call. Now, early in the race, the car appeared to have a pretty bad push in 3 and 4, and Tim made some major adjustments. What did he do?
Well, Ron and I were discussing, and I said, listen, just a little bit front wing. I know the track's going to come to me, and definitely did. Towards the end was kind of loose, but I said, you know what? If they say loose is fast, that's the way we went. And what incredible race. It was hard as any yellow, so it was just incredible. I tell you all. Guys, let's keep working hard. This is looking fantastic.
Hey, you chased the Target Ganassi guys all night long. Were you concerned on those last couple laps that they might be able to sneak back up on you?
I kept looking in my mirrors, I wasn't looking out even to the front, and I can see that they are catching, but hey, to catch me one thing, to pass me is another. So it was a great battle. Those guys are very competitive, but this team here is fantastic. So Team Penske, you're awesome.
All right, Elio Castroneves, his second win at Texas.
Well, in the fastest Texas race on the record book. We only had 2 yellow periods, so it was a quick race.
Yeah, with only 2 yellows, you can see right here, Castroneves, Dixon, Weldon, and Hornish, the 4 guys are up front all day long.
Well, Hornish, of course, running out of fuel, really didn't want to talk, but he was generous in his remarks as well, as was Weldon, because he didn't want to talk about it. He wanted to hide, but the guy that wanted to talk was the guy that won that thing. Castroneves wins for the 3rd time. The Victory Lane celebration continues with our live coverage from Texas Motor Speedway, where Ganassi Racing gave a gift to Penske Racing this evening. We talked off the top of the show about the battle between these 2 teams, and one gifted the other one a race this evening.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, Dan Weldon knows he should have won that race. He was gracious, but he was very disappointed.
Well, and you can't win championships just based on the bonus points that you're getting. This is the 3rd time this season that he has led the most laps and gained the 3 bonus points, but by virtue of finishing in 3rd position, he loses ground to Castroneves.
Yeah, and Castroneves pulls just that much farther ahead of everybody else, and there's really nobody to blame in that situation. It was just unbelievable what happened out there in his last pit stop. This is Elio's win here at Texas 3 years ago, sorry.
Yeah, October 2004. 2 years ago.
So he won that thing. That's a pretty good margin as Texas standards go.
Well, and this is his victory this evening. There's Eddie Gossage, president, general manager here at Texas, and what a promoter he is.
Yes, he is. He's a great promoter. He's done wonders with this racetrack. They had a great crowd here tonight. The crowds here at this racetrack are second only to the crowds in Indianapolis as far as IndyCar series goes. He's always had terrific crowds.
And did you see who was not here this evening? He offered $50,000 apiece if Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr. would come and race this evening, and neither one accepted his offer.
No, and nor did I expect, especially Michael, to. Michael only has one race he'll ever run again, and that'll be the Indianapolis 500 if he decides to do that again next year. And he might, given the good results he had this year.
Finished third this year. He might just come back and try it again. So once again, Castroneves is victorious over Dixon. Weldon, Hornish, after running out of fuel on that last stop, comes back to finish fourth. Sharp, a good ride for Scott in fifth. Vito Mira ends up in sixth. Tony Kanaan seventh. Koski Matsuura was eighth. Ninth was Ed Carpenter. 10th was Thomas Schechter. And look at the cowboy hat.
Yeah. A true Brazilian cowboy.
Now, if we can get him to ride one of those Longhorn steers as the fireworks go off to celebrate the victory for Castroneves. And you got to believe right now that there is hidden away someplace deep in the garage area is Weldon. Scott Dixon.
At fourth, and he finished second, tying his best here in Texas. And Scott, take us through the race, though. The beginning, we know you were fighting a push. How did your car start to come to you there toward the end?
Well, you know, in the first stint, I think we started on some older tires, the first two stints, and the car was not so good. We struggled with the push, but then I got cords on the right rear, so I got pretty loose pretty quick, and I had such a slow inlet because I couldn't go around the apron very fast. But throughout the day, you know, the Tiger guys just worked on the car, and we got it pretty good. And my car was just draggy the whole race. It wasn't the fastest one. It was very comfortable to drive, which is always nice for us, but frustrating when you're not the quickest.
Hey, it's a lot better than the last couple of years. How Honda Power is making you a new man.
It's making the team a whole new group of people, and it's so much fun to be back at the top and getting the job done.
Scott Dixon out of the car. He has his little getting all these buddies home in New Zealand.
Well, we take a look at the point standings now, going into a weekend off. Then we head off to Richmond as Castroneves has increased his lead by 10 over Dixon. He was 12 going in this evening. Now it's at 22. You see Weldon up 1 to third, and Hornish drops to fourth, and Kanaan, Mira, Scott Sharp, Matsuura, Herta, and Patrick 10th in the point standing. Happy to bring you a live coverage, and happy there are the six shooters. Look out! I hope they're not loaded. Well, I guess they are with blanks. Oh my, well, let's see what Danica has to say. Danica finished in the 12th position this evening. She's with Jamie.
Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway. I'm Jamie Little, along with Danica Patrick, who finished 12th tonight. Danica, you're still the only driver in the entire field who has completed 100% of the laps, but I know you're a little frustrated. What happened tonight?
You know, it was the first time in this new Dallara, and I was a little bit cautious on the restarts, just not from a standpoint of all the car, but a little bit the car. I wasn't sure what it was going to do and how it would handle with traffic. And then people were just spreading out, and I like to finish, as that would prove. So I tended to get caught out there because this is so much a momentum track, and you've got to keep your foot in it. Once I got going, I was fine, but we had a little bit of understeer in the first stint. But as soon as we made a little adjustment with the wing, I was pretty solid for the rest of the race. I could run the low line, I could run the high line, and which proved to be a good thing because I think my friends out there couldn't run the high line like I could, so I just had to run the bottom.
Danica Patrick running that new chassis that she mentioned, the Dallara. Everybody in the field was running the same setup here tonight. Dr. Punch.
We caught up with the captain, Roger Penske. Congratulations, Roger, on another win here tonight. The man that made the call tonight down in that pit for Elio, Tim Cindric, you have a tremendous amount of confidence in, and I guess he's the guy you just put in charge of everything, including the stock car team.
Well, Jerry, you know, Tim is a guy that's really worked hard for us, made a great call tonight. We run two different strategies. We hadn't run Sam out of field. It would have been great to see them both up there fighting, but great call. Elio drove a great race. You got to give that pit crew, you know, a real handshake because they were the ones that got him out early because Weldon obviously was running ahead, and we beat them in the pits, and that's what's got us the race.
Rick Ronneman and crew made a great stop, and that's what put Elio out front, and it's all about the organization. This is the man that puts all those people in place.
Yeah, and he does it so well, and he has ever since he came to IndyCar racing in the late 60s with Mark Donohue. Once again, the unofficial results with Castroneves over Dixon, Weldon, Hornish, Sharp, Mira, Kanaan, Matsuura, Carpenter, and Thomas Schechter finishing in the 10th position. And so only 9 cars finish on the lead lap. You see those that are a lap off the pace. Eddie Cheever in 16th position, 3 laps off the pace. Only 2 drivers out of the race today, Buddy Rice and Buddy Lazier. In the point standings again, Castroneves increases his points from 12 going in to 22, the lead over Dixon now. Dan Weldon picked up 1 spot, but he's only 1 point in front of Sam Hornish. And then you see the rest of the top 10. There's Danica, lost 2 positions with her finish today in 14th position. And she's 10th in the point standings.
Yeah, and it's regardless of what she said, it was a tough day for her. That's not exactly the way she would like to have run here tonight, but still not too bad.
Well, in 2 weeks, Mr. Rice, it's another night race, and that'll be exciting. That's what you call bull ring in this country. That's the smallest track we'll be on all season.
3/4 of a mile, and it's very, very intense for the drivers because you're constantly in traffic. You're constantly passing people. You're constantly got cars all around you. It'll be much more intense than this race was tonight.
Bring us to the halfway point of the season, because remember, they've condensed the season down, a 14 race schedule. And I think between the 500 in May, the Indy 500, and the last race of the season, we only have maybe 3 weekends free, and that's very tough, not so much on the drivers but on the crews.
Yeah, not like some of the other series here in America, NASCAR for instance. They have 2 or 3 different crews, one for the shop, one to go to the track, and so forth. These guys have 1 crew. They do all the testing, they do all the working, they do all the preparation. So whatever has to be done, these are the guys that have to do it, and it's very, very difficult on them.
It was interesting yesterday after the last practice session. It didn't take long for those crew members to leave and go find some heats or some cool someplace, because the heat was just devastating this weekend.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend for the crews, for the drivers, for everybody.
Well, once again, it was the pit work of the Penske Marlboro team that got Elio in and out before Weldon, and he takes the victory, his 3rd of the season, and Spider-Man climbs the fence, puts the cowboy hat on, and celebrates here at Texas. Well, this has been a presentation of ESPN in association with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Join us in 2 weeks for the 2nd night race of the season from Richmond International Raceway. Our congratulations to Elio Castroneves and the Penske Racing team for their victory here this evening. For Larry Rice, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us, and so long from Texas Motor Speedway.